2005 Lexus RX air conditioning. So if you looked in the previous video when I did the recovery and I started the vacuum in the micron gauge, so we have multiple micron gauges hooked up here. We have a micron gauge here in line of the vacuum, so you can see the difference from here. We have a micron gauge here at the port just before the vacuum line. There's a micron gauge located in the vacuum pump, and then we have a micron gauge just at this side of the vacuum right here. And this has been bouncing up between like 38 microns, 50 some microns, and as you can see right there, you can see the bounce. So let's get this up here so get the glare out of your eyes. Now you see how many hours are into this. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. We're approaching 4 hours. And if you come up here to the testo, you can see we're 3 hours and 42 minutes into it. But unfortunately the testo micron meter dropped out again. Remember last night it dropped out 2 times. It dropped out about 2 o'clock in the morning after about 2 hours, and then when I tried to turn it on about 5 o'clock in the morning, it dropped out again in the other test in the last videos. And then I just tried to use it again and it dropped out again. But a real micron meter stays connected, and so this one, I gotta say, out of micron meters, this has been my most reliable right here, and that's the blue vac. This has been the actual piece of trash that is constantly dropping out on me. When it works, it works. When it doesn't, we get this little scenario, which is constant. So this has been okay. It's had its own issues, but it's definitely been better than this. If you can't use it and it doesn't track or stay on, it's about as worthless as spitting in the wind. At least this gives you some indication. This has been the most accurate and reliable of all of them. And then if you actually owned a field piece set of gauges, the field piece comes with a micron meter built inside the gauge. Even though that's not ideal, it's not the best place. Something is better than something that doesn't work. That's about it. So I'm about to fill this thing up, and as you can see, this is the software that goes with this micron gauge right here. But I know many people, they want just a gauge, and that's where you would get the field piece and you have this built in. That's not the ideal place. The ideal place is somewhere in the system if you could place it, or as close as possible. And that's about it. Okay, I'm gonna prepare this and get ready to do the recharge. And yes, that is ice down there because that's part of my process when I'm purifying. When I do refrigerant, I actually have a one-off refrigerant recycling recovery system that's not your normal recycling. It actually uses like a -30 cryonics chamber that brings my refrigerant down, because it goes through a purification process of cracking and separating gases and impurities and air and stuff like that. And this is like an hour later, it's still warming up. But that's another process, another video, another time. I'll talk about refrigerant purification and stuff that you're not your run-of-the-mill automotive kind of recycler kind of machines. That's going to be a much further detailed video about cracking and splitting refrigerants, blending refrigerants, making your own refrigerants. Ooh, big nasty. It's really easy, dudes. Something my dad was taught by his high school buddy who worked for Gentron, which later became DuPont, which later became somebody else. But he was a refrigerant professor in refrigerant engineering and stuff like that, manufacturing the refrigerants we use today. And my dad was fortunate enough to have him as one of his best childhood friends, who taught him about blending and separating refrigerants, who passed it on to me. All right, guys, see you later.